It's funny. There are all these invisible systems that hold our entire world together. We rely on them every single day, but we never, ever see them. We just take them for granted, right up until the moment they break. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. What happens when those invisible things, the foundations we're built on, just stop?
Man, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's this powerful, simple truth that our modern world, and yeah, our modern businesses, are all propped up by things we rarely even think about. So, what happens when those supports suddenly disappear?
To really get what this means for us today, we actually have to jump in a time machine and go all the way back to July 27th, 1866. On that day, the single most important piece of global infrastructure in the world, this invisible thread on the bottom of the ocean connecting continents, it just went silent.
So let's look at the story of this cable. For 8 years, it was a miracle. It was literally changing the world, making it smaller, speeding up everything from trade to diplomacy. And then, one day, poof, silence. The stock markets totally froze. Governments were in a full-blown panic. And the break itself? It was this tiny, tiny flaw, but finding it took months. The lesson they learned the hard way was huge. You can't just set and forget the things your world is built on.
And here's the real kicker. The cable didn't snap because it was poorly designed or because of some big catastrophe. It failed because for 8 years, while it was working perfectly, nobody was really taking care of it. The whole system just collapsed from quiet, simple neglect.
Okay, so what does a rusty old cable from the 1800s have to do with you right now? Well, the tech has changed, but the principle, it's exactly the same. Back then, it was a physical wire. Today, your invisible infrastructure is your digital foundation. It's all the signals, the content, the schema, the definitions that tell AI systems who you are. And they are just as vital and just as easy to forget about.
And that brings us to a very modern problem, something we call identity collapse. This is the digital equivalent of that cable snapping. It's that terrifying moment when an AI, like a search engine or a big language model, just can't see you anymore. Not because you disappeared, but because the signals that defined you have been ignored for so long that they've just faded away.
So, how does this actually happen? Well, it's rarely one big thing. It's more like a death by 1,000 cuts. It's doing a rebrand but not updating all the technical bits and pieces behind the scenes. It's deleting old blog posts without telling search engines where that information went. Every one of these things seems small, but each one is another tiny crack in your foundation.
Now here's a crucial idea to get your head around. We tend to think of AI as having this perfect, infinite memory. But that's just not how it works. AI systems don't preserve your identity, they stabilize it based on the signals you're sending them right now. If you stop sending those clear, consistent signals, their memory of you starts to get fuzzy, and eventually it just goes.
So this is the big question, isn't it? If neglect is the path to collapse, then what does proactive care even look like? How do you actually build an identity that can survive? An identity that's built to last through all the changes and updates and everything else?
Well, the answer isn't just to try harder. It's about having a system. And that system is the Infrastructure Endurance Framework. You can think of it as a game plan for treating your digital identity like what it is: living, breathing infrastructure that needs to be maintained. This framework has 3 layers, and they all build on each other. So at the very bottom, the base, you've got monitoring. You have to be constantly auditing your identity, checking for those little cracks before they become big problems. The next layer up is reinforcement. This is all about actively making your signals stronger, repeating your core definitions over and over so the AI has no choice but to remember who you are. And finally, at the very top, we have prevention. This is for when you have to make big changes, like a rebrand. It's about having a disciplined, careful plan so you don't accidentally cut your own cable. Okay, the framework is great, but let's get practical. How do you actually put this thing into action? Let's break it down into 4 concrete steps you can actually start doing. All right, here it is, your action plan. Step 1, audit quarterly. Use the tools out there to literally see yourself the way an AI sees you. Find the gaps. Step 2, reinforce. This means you're regularly republishing your key definitions, you're redeploying your schema, which is basically just a structured language that helps search engines understand your stuff, and you're cross-linking everything. Step 3, and this is so important, plan for changes. Never,
ever rebrand or delete a huge chunk of your site without a migration plan to protect those signals. And finally, step 4, which ties it all together, you have to change your mindset. Treat your identity as living infrastructure. It needs constant, systematic monitoring, reinforcing, and repairing.
So we end right back where we started, thinking about those invisible things that hold us up. That old telegraph cable from 1866 has a timeless lesson for us. Your digital foundation, right now, is working silently in the background. So the only question left is it solid or is it silently, slowly breaking apart? Are you maintaining it or are you just waiting to find out what holds you up after it's already gone?